what's the typical gym member thinking, do you think? Guy out here at Powerhouse Gym here in town, he's joined, he's on a 48-month contract, he hasn't got tired of it yet, he's been there 2 weeks. What's he thinking when he goes there?
I haven't been in a commercial gym in so long, I don't know if I would be qualified to answer that.
I went in one for the first time in many years, about 2 weeks ago in San Francisco. And it was like, it was an interesting experience for me too. It was first time I'd been in there.
I would have to think you go in to meet people, probably more than anything.
Hell, I don't know. I saw everybody, because we don't do it this way, but I saw people just wandering around from station to station, looking at themselves in the mirror, doing all this. And I kept thinking to myself, what are these, where are their notes? Where's their training book?
Yeah.
You know, they're just wandering around. So you think they're just there for the social exposure, or you think
you caught me off guard with that question. I don't get it. I don't know why people do it. I don't know what the appeal of it is. I never did. I started as a martial artist and a track athlete, so I kind of came into lifting with more of an athletic mindset, I think. So I think I kind of managed to bypass that whole thing. It's maybe people will send in comments to that one. It's perplexing.
Well, I've never operated my gym as a commercial gym. In the standard industry model, we've always taught people the barbell list when they were there. So there wasn't.
But see,
even when I was busy, there was not an inordinate amount of screwing around on the floor. But I worked from time to time in the early part of my career. I worked in places like that. And Charles, I've forgotten. I don't.
If I had to say, now that I've had another moment to reflect on it, I think people are just assuming that if it hurts, whether you're doing a pec deck or a treadmill or whatever, you must be doing something good for yourself. So where you're getting a burn or you're sweating, huffing and puffing. I think that's the mind process. And I relate this almost to like a religious thing. I think it's kind of like you're atoning for your sins. I think, you've been a bad person. There's a lot of judgment.
I mean, you did get drunk Saturday night after all, and now it's Monday afternoon.
I think there's a lot of judgment and guilt around all of this. And I think it's atonement. And boy, that's a different mindset than being an athlete, right?
Because it is.
If you're an athlete, you're trying to accomplish something, you're trying to better yourself. It's proactive, it's positive, it's redeeming. Exercise is self-punishment. You're punishing.
You're paying for that piece of pie.
That's a great way to put it.
Right.
And I just never got that.
Right.
This is a big part of our professional mission, is to wake people up to this kind of idea that you should not be exercising.
Well, I'm actually full of shit at this point, because we do occasionally have a guy or two that show up, and I think I'm probably the only gym in town with an $8 a day fee. So people will come in Thanksgiving, Christmas, and what's your day rate, and they'll pay me $8. And I'll watch them, and they all do the same thing. First thing they do is they go over to the dumbbell rack. And I don't intend to interact with these people. I took their $8, and I want to watch them do this. They go over to the dumbbell rack. They spend anywhere from a minimum of 30 minutes to a maximum of an hour messing around with more dumbbell exercises than I know. I probably knew them at one time, but I've forgotten that people did all this shit with dumbbells. And then, after that, they go over to the treadmill that we still have in the gym, and they will walk on the treadmill for 20 minutes, and then they'll leave. And that was it. And that's perhaps what I'm seeing there is what typically occurs in a more fitness industry oriented gym. Now, probably what I'm seeing is a skewed version of that, because we don't have any machines.
Some of the goofy stuff.
Right. We don't have the goofy shit that they normally would have access to, where they get to sit down and do this with their legs, or wiggle around, or do different things with the machine. So I'm just seeing the dumbbell part of it. But there's no book, there's no
Which,
There's no records being kept.
by the way, this confirms something that we experience at Bed and Barbell, which is that people don't know how to use barbells. So it's interesting that you say they're going to dumbbells
That's where they
and
go.
the treadmill, because people really do not know how to use barbells.
Or I'll see them over on the squat rack doing quarter squats.
Okay.
Real tentatively.
Yeah.
But that's all. They won't
Yeah.
ever pull the bar off the floor. They'll never press it overhead. Sometimes they'll bench. Some of the bigger guys will lay down there and have
Sure.
a bench press.
Sure.
But nobody knows how to squat. And primarily they confine themselves to the dumbbell rack.
Sure. Yeah. So it's funny because one of my impressions of the fitness industry right now is that all of this started, I think, with barbell training. Dumbbells too, but barbell training.
60, 70 years ago.
Yeah, and now when you look in gyms, you see everything from core training to Pilates to gymnastic stuff to kettlebells. Some of these things are fine, elastic tubing. Nobody's using bars anymore.
No. Or if they are, they're in a Smith machine.
Yeah, which I don't consider to be a bar.
No.
So people have lost that skill,
Yes.
and it's a shame. So,
Yeah, it is. It's a damn shame. Do you think the industry is changing?
Well, I certainly see a bifurcation in the industry between kind of serious stuff and foo-foo stuff. So
Right.
you see a great rise in all the goofy gimmicks and stuff. Then you see things like CrossFit, for example, which is, regardless of what you think of it, it's hardcore.
It has, and it's provided the venue for a lot of these developments that have been driven by our friend, the internet.
Yeah.
The internet changed everything, and to the extent that things are being changed in the fitness industry, those changes are being driven by the web and the information that is right there in front of you. You have access to information. Compare the way that you competed with people. That you exchanged information with people when you first started your competitive martial arts when you were in your early 20s. Compare that with what happens now, and it's
well, when I was 13,
it's like the difference between horses and.
Oh no, it's stunning. It's stunning.
And the way we move around right now.
The speed of acquiring information is stunning.
It has enabled so much information to be transmitted so efficiently that it has improved everybody's ability to communicate and improved everybody's capacity to learn a whole lot of information in a relatively short period of time. Now, that's the good part.
Yeah. Yeah.
The bad part is, if you make enough posts on a website, then eventually
You're the expert.
You're the expert.
Yeah.
Whether you have done it or not, whether you've competed or not, whether you have any experience actually coaching athletes to an advanced level or not.
Right.
You answer enough questions, wrong or right. You answer enough posts, you post enough of your opinions, and the internet has made you an expert. Now that's the downside. But the converse of that is allowing serious coaches to have a forum and have access to an incredible number of people that they didn't ever have the opportunity to even be aware of before.
Yeah,
it's
it's
people weren't aware of what they're aware of now because there was no method by which to make them aware.
I was watching the Arnold Classic, weightlifting from the Arnold Classic on streaming video, and they've got a chat room right next door, and there's Joe Doobie talking back and forth with people. So think about the change in this guy's life. You know, Joe Doobie, great weightlifter for those
from the '60s from
But now he's
Barbara.
on the internet chat room talking to people about lifts, and there's all these kids in there talking to him, have no clue who he is.
Don't know who he is.
Isn't that funny?
Kids that had no idea what the name Norbert Szymanski even meant. Right. I wish we'd had this a long time ago. I wish I could get Starr to involve, but he won't do it. He will not do it. He will not. He refuses to take this step. He doesn't. It's like not wanting a telephone. And he might as well not have a telephone, but that's another deal. That's another deal altogether. Okay, how long have you been on the internet? I know you've been there way longer than me.
In one form or another since 1991.
1991. You were an early adopter.
I was an early adopter.
Weren't you?
My old friends at the ISSA, including my former boss, Fred Hatfield, call me Chew, because when I was getting my first email address in 91 through AOL,
right.
I put in combinations of Charles Staley and they were all taken. And finally, after like 25 takes of this, it finally came up with CHU 1959 or something. And I'm just like, oh, okay, I'll take it.
I'll take it.
And that was
Something
my email
close.
address, so I became Chew.
Chew.
So yeah, I still remember part of
Even then, you were known by your username
Yes.
or screen name.
Yeah.
Screen name.
But it's been
91. So what was it like in 91 to try to talk to people about this?
Well, you'd
material?
have people coming in, first of all, into your office, trying to charge you like $20,000 to develop a website.
Right.
And it all seemed very legitimate
Right.
at that time.
At the
because
time.
you just, so there was
Nobody knew.
there was a lot of crazy scamming going on with people who.
Well, that might not have been a scam if you didn't know how to build a website and you needed one.
Yeah.
It might have been worth $20,000.
Yeah, there was a lot of that, and there were not a lot of places to go on the web. And it was, I think, more of a novelty, much like computers when they first came out. It was a novelty. It was amazing, but you didn't really quite know what to do with it. And I think the internet has followed a similar kind of path from novelty to a truly effective communication tool.
Indispensable at this point.
Indispensable.
What were you doing in 91?
Well, I was working for the International Sports Sciences Association. We were developing a certification program.
Right.
I'm sure a lot of people watching are familiar with that, and I was on the ground floor of that.
Right, that was Hatfield's
Dr.
organization.
Fred Hatfield and Dr. Sal Aria, if you know that name from California.
I
big
remember
powerlifter.
I remember the deal.
And I kind of cut my teeth professionally on that organization, and it was a great experience to be involved.
So you were posting on their website?
Yeah, I was helping
or
develop the
you just
site.
answering emails? What were you?
Any and all of that. Yeah, any and all of that.
Right.
But at that time, 91, 92.
How'd you get that job, by the way?
Oh, well, that was interesting. I was working with some weightlifters in New York and brought them to the New York State Championships. And at that meet, Dr. Fred Hatfield was the honorary guy who was giving out the trophies at that meet. And I was
At a weightlifting meet?
At a weightlifting meet,
Really?
and I was starstruck. I mean, I had Power. What was the book he wrote? Power: The Complete Guide, or something.
Well,
like
no.
this.
He wrote a book called Powerlifting: A Scientific Approach.
Yes, Power:
And-
A Scientific Approach. I think.
It's Powerlifting: A
Okay.
Scientific Approach.
But I'd read this book
Because
and so-
Mike Stone had won Weightlifting: A Scientific
Okay,
Approach, and
okay.
they were similar
Well,
texts.
to me, Hatfield was God, and Fred, I'm still appreciative to this day. But anyway, I had just read a book from Tony Robbins, the infomercial guy.
Right.
And I was reading a chapter in this book, and the chapter was called How to Get Anything You Want in Life. And you turn the page and it says ask. And then on the next page it says ask again. And then on the next page it says ask with more conviction, ask more persistently, ask better, and the whole point was be proactive about getting. So I'm like, I went up to Fred and I introduced myself, told him my situation, and told him I was looking for an opportunity. And I don't know how awkward that initial request sounded, but he must have taken pity on me. He goes, you know what, Charles? My partner and I are developing this certification thing out in Santa Barbara. Why don't you go out there and help my partner? 6 months later, I'm sitting in Santa Barbara. And
that's how you moved out of New York.
From Poughkeepsie, New York to Santa Barbara, California.
Right.
And that was a big shift.
I'll bet.
It really was.
I'll bet. So you were initially on the web in association with ISSA.
Yeah.
And apparently it turned into, they had a Q&A situation that you became involved with and
all of
saw the potential and took it from there.
Yeah.
When did you go out on your own from ISSA?
There was a period of time where I was kind of doing some consulting and stuff concurrent with my position at ISSA, and then gradually I left ISSA. I think I left ISSA in 98, if I'm not mistaken, and did a little work there, moved to Las Vegas for some time, and then to Phoenix. So
Right.
that's
So that was the trek.
Yeah. So
Well, what do you think you took away from that early web experience? I have been, you've been on the web doing this a long time. I've known about you for much longer than I've actually personally known you.
Yeah.
And
that's the value of the web.
right. And your name as a strength coach is quite widely recognized, and it was due to the fact that you were first in line adopting this new method of communication.
Well,
and not just that, of course. There are a lot of people on the web that are completely and utterly full of shit. Yeah. So you can't just be on the web.
I think I'm a good communicator. And
what you do works.
I'm a good teacher. What I do works, but I'm a good communicator. I've not really invented anything new, but I can get you. I can take you from the unknown to the known, and I'm a good teacher. And the internet, if you're a good teacher, if you're a good communicator, gives you leverage.
Right.
And I think that for me, that's why the web was so important for me, because it just gave me that leverage, and it put me out in front of millions of people. And I'm sometimes actually, and I don't mean this to come across in an arrogant kind of way, but I'm stunned sometimes. On my Facebook account, I get probably 3 to 5 messages a day from people who are putting in a friend request from everywhere from Albania to New Zealand to, all these countries I've never heard of, saying, Charles, I've been following you forever, and, thanks for the friend request, and really love your work. And once in a while I just sit back and I'm like, man, I just, sometimes I don't realize that the reach that I've had, and I
think you've had a profound effect on lots and lots of people's training over the years, because for many people who were new to the web a long time ago, and at the same time new to training, you provided a direction that they would not otherwise have had, and direction is obviously better than... That's the difference again between training and exercise.
And also in my early career as an athlete, I was kind of information starved. This was pre-internet. It was hard to get information.
Right.
I mean...
So you've been in their shoes.
So when the web came along, I just instantly kind of took to that, because, here now you can be in a position where you can provide information, economically, if not for free.
Right.
And to just millions and millions of people. And I wish I had it when I was... first learning how to lift and all of that. So.
Oh God, had I known then what I know now, how many times have we all said that?
Yeah, for sure.
Yes.
But the trick is, you've got a lot of information at your fingertips, but the trick is the ability to assess and analyze and compare, and to kind of, have a way to kind of utilize that information and be able to discern, I think.
Well, that's ultimately up to the individual, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is.
It is your responsibility to do your homework, see who's full of shit, who's not, and make the appropriate decisions relevant to your training.
Yeah.
Charles, thank you.
Thanks so much.
Appreciated this discussion. We leave anything out? StaleyTraining.com.
StaleyTraining.com
is your website. Give him a check out as quickly as possible. And we'd like to thank you for being with us again on the Starting Strength series.